worried about.
Okay, call this meeting to order.
Okay.
Chairperson Martin. Here. Mr. Bahu.
Here.
Ms. Doherty.
Here.
Three present.
Right, so we'll begin this meeting of the Curriculum Instruction Subcommittee. And we had, we don't have to discuss the first one of this, of establishing the monthly curriculum instruction subcommittee. We're living it. So we can talk about the curriculum adoption process.
So we, the last time we came together, I shared the audit results from Attune and also the recommendations that, they asked us to consider adopting a new tier 1 instructional core for ELA and literacy across grades K through 8. And so in terms of an update, some of the feedback that we gave last time was still wanting to know how many teachers were involved and how much teacher voice was present. So we, after the audit recommendation, there was also a survey that was conducted where a number of teachers were asked, and there were about 60 teachers that participated in this survey about their choices for curriculum moving forward. So I created an online Google site where 5 products, publishers for ELA and literacy were put into this Google document, and teachers were allowed to go through and make their recommendations about which curriculum they thought they wanted to see and know more about, so that we could possibly implement moving in the next academic year. So we had over 125 responses to that survey, and they narrowed it down from 5 programs to 3. So EL Education, American Reading Company, and Core Knowledge / Amplify were the 3 that were selected by the teachers that responded to the online survey. Those 3 were then invited to a curriculum fair, which we held at UMass Lowell on, was it March 11th? Yes, March 11th. Each of the 3 curricula were presented. The vendors came. We, at that time, partnered with the Teachers Union, and Tina was really helpful in helping us identify a representative from each of our schools. So we had 1 teacher from each of our schools, along with the coach and some administrators, not a lot of administrators, but we had over 60 staff show up for the curriculum fair. They did not vote, but provided feedback. So what they had was a rubric that aligned with the curriculum audit that we had received, which asked for us to be thinking about elements about grade level alignment, whether the texts were diverse, whether there was a balance of fiction and nonfiction text in the curriculum. And so each of the vendors received the same rubric so that their presentation was tailored to the rubric. And our teachers and our coaches stayed for the most, I'd say 6 hours. So it was a full day. At the end, they did an online narrative of what their feedback was about each of the presentations. Some of that is captured in what I'm sharing with you. So some of the feedback identified that each of the 3 vendors, EL Education, American Reading Company, and Core Knowledge, were all going to be strong in terms of they each are high quality instructional, based on DESE's definition that each of them would be providing grade level instruction, or each would be providing a balance of fiction and nonfiction. We would be building knowledge for our students. After that curriculum fair in March, they also expressed more information about each specific lesson or lessons within each of the curricula. And so then we created another tool of 3 more tools. We created with the literacy team, there was a presentation, an online version of each, access to each of the curriculum. And that is currently open now, so that our teachers, we have probably right now, it'll close this week, it'll close on Thursday. But we currently have about 120 teachers who have already reviewed the lessons in each of the curricula and made recommendations about which of the three they would prefer as the next curriculum. Our steps and process are to take their feedback into consideration this week, so that we then propose from three, we propose two. A first choice and a second choice as an option to the superintendent for a final decision.
So can I, just a few quick
Yeah.
questions. So with all three of these, the ARC, EL, and then the core knowledge, can you remind me which grade levels these cover?
They would, each one would cover K through 8,
Okay, so all three of them cover the
cover the
same.
same band. It's just that core knowledge and amplified. They're the same company, but they have different, they break off in K to 5 and then 6 to 8,
Oh, okay,
but they're all.
but it's
They all cover the
aligned
same
and-
band of
okay.
grades, and they're all aligned, and they're all green on ed reports, and they are all knowledge building as the core of the curriculum.
So with some of the, just kind of looking quickly at the synthesis here. So the concerns around the ARC, the reading company, in that it kind of seemed the same as what we're already doing.
So it is similar looking,
Uh,
because it has, one of the elements in American Reading Company is that it is lots of rich text,
mhm.
but there is a balance of nonfiction and fiction. And there's, so it made people, in terms of the feedback that they gave, feel there's a feeling that it might be similar, but it is not, because it has actually been vetted as having a systematic structure for the phonics and the foundational pieces, and has been evaluated by ed reports as all green. So it does align to our standards, and it aligns to the foundational skills that we want, and that were identified in our audit.
So with our previous system, though, it didn't achieve the green.
No, so the Calkins Units of Study is not all green.
Okay.
So you're comfortable with the three choices that you guys have summarized, that you've come
Yes.
to, that you've concluded?
Yes.
How many people went to the curriculum fair?
The fair, there were about 60 to 70.
And like, who was invited? Was it principals?
So everyone was invited. We had one teacher from every one of our schools invited. And we covered substitute coverage for that one teacher. But in some buildings, there was a possibility for principals to send an additional teacher, and some principals took advantage of that. And so there might have been two teachers from one building, but there was at least one teacher from each building. And then we invited all of the instructional support staff, the coaches, to the fair. And there were a couple, not a lot, but maybe 4 or 5 principals who also participated.
And at the fair, were they only covering EL, ARC, and
So
CKLA?
only those 3 were at the fair.
Okay, so that's
Yeah.
essentially why they progressed it, but they sort of looked at it and saw
Right.
all the advantages of each one. And
They
then there was
looked at
some
them
similarities.
So they looked at them online, and they narrowed a choice from 5 to those 3. And so then those 3 came and presented to each at the fair and gave more details.
Right, and now how many people will sort of, well, you said there's gonna be about 120 people that have already answered.
So
You know, the
far, right now,
Google-
we have 60 that showed up in person, at least 60 that showed up in person. 120 so far have responded to our online deeper look at each of the 3 and made their recommendations so far.
Sure, and you're gonna take a look at that.
We're taking a look. at
And
all
then,
of them.
like, who makes the final decision for the
So
final 2? Because I'm sure everything's gonna move forward to the
We
top
have,
administration.
So the same literacy working team that worked with us with a tune, remember, I don't know if I mentioned or if back when in August, we pulled together a group of coaches, principals, and teachers to work with us as part of a literacy working group. That team is coming back together again, or continues to be with us. They will be making the recommendation with the literacy team in the district to the superintendent, off of the feedback we have received from all the teachers that have been involved so far.
Yeah, go right ahead.
I noticed that with
core knowledge. It's specifically in the, I'm assuming the write-up is kind of right out of the vendor, their promotional material, but it specifically spells out phonics, reading comprehension, and writing.
Mhm.
The other ones don't seem to put that emphasis.
They're all reading comprehension, phonics.
So it's just that they're
Yeah,
just not
not
saying,
highlighting
okay,
necessarily.
because I do think that the phonics has been successful and that the
Yeah.
writing
Mhm.
has been an ongoing
Yeah.
challenge for us to have our students be doing more of. And I guess, the other thing that kind of jumped out at me was, I don't remember exactly what the audit pointed out, except one piece about consistency and rigor, and I mean, clearly, these are all green curriculum.
Right.
I don't think we can go wrong, right? I mean,
shouldn't,
there's what's
right.
better for us, there's that
Right.
fine tuning. But the devil is in the details here in terms of the actual implementation, and where we know, and maybe you can remind me, because that's just one thing that jumped out at me about the audit. Aside from the fact that we were dealing with maybe not the best curriculum, but this idea of consistency and rigor. Where are we looking at that here?
So-
I mean, I think that you talk about focus on equity and student needs. Obviously, we want to do that. All those other elements that you said are in each of the programs. But are we taking a hard look at what the professional development will be, how are we going to address some of the downfalls that we saw from the audit?
So the first place we're addressing it is in high quality instructional material. So the HQIM, that stamp means that it's grade level. It is aligned to standards. It is using a balance of the fiction and nonfiction text. It includes instructional practices that have research and evidence base to support them. So the fact that it has been green, or if I could make it a verb, but I can't. So the fact that it's green means that
We're hitting some of those
we're hitting
areas.
all of the areas that the audit identified that we were not hitting. And so one of the things that you probably could remember from the audit is that we didn't have a balance of fiction and nonfiction. So the knowledge building component of most curriculum is the nonfiction pieces that build the
Right.
knowledge. So these will all have a balance of fiction and nonfiction. And each of them focuses heavily on building knowledge for students. So those are pieces that were highlighted. The other pieces that were highlighted in the audit were coherence. So this is a move to try to bring some alignment across the district, across all those grades. So some
Right.
consistencies and some alignment. There is in each one of them an integrated reading and writing. So it's not in separate buckets like
Right.
currently. So it's a combination of reading and writing that go hand in hand with each other. There's the audit also identified a need for us to increase how we support our Ls, so our large L population. Each of these three responds to our population of students who speak English as another language. And they have a lot of supports and scaffolds to support that population of students. I'm trying to remember what else the audit highlighted. That's at the balance of fiction grade level. There was a lot in the audit that talked about not exactly how you framed it in terms of professional development, but this idea that our teachers were doing what we had asked them to do, but what we had asked them to do wasn't research and evidence-based in order to move the work forward. And so it wasn't an indictment of our teachers so much as it was about the work that we were asking them to do. So each of these will have close reading maybe at the center of the work, which is an instructional strategy that helps kids with repeated reading routines. So they read a text multiple times to get meaning from it. Each one of these will be just what you said. The foundational pieces will be aligned. So phonics will be evident in each of the three of them. And then there will be culminating tasks that are writing and reading connected.
Right.
So they will read about something and then the culminating task will be to respond to that type of writing, as well as other types of writing in the curriculum.
Can I ask, between these three kind of systems, do we have any sense of history? Do they have any kind of established testing and kind of back up
Yeah.
the rigor?
So all three of them, are in varying degrees in, across districts that are, I would say that similar to ours, so for sure, expeditionary learning and CKLA are both in urban districts. American Reading Company, maybe not to the same extent as the other two, but each one of them has research and evidence to support that they're effective in districts that look like ours.
So what would that, kind of, what shape would that take? You know, recognizing that it may not be Massachusetts, you know what I mean? Like we couldn't make an MCAS comparison, but are there comparisons we could make in terms of performance against benchmarks?
Yes. Yes. And all three of them are in Massachusetts.
Okay.
Not all in urban, but all
Yeah.
three of them are currently in Massachusetts.
I mean, just I think from our perspective, I mean, that would be interesting. It'd be interesting, I mean, for us to know it just kind of as a exercise, but for, you know, the team and ultimately the superintendent to kind of have that, seems like that would be
Yeah.
data that would be helpful.
Right, I mean, even not just in the districts, but actually like
Right.
reach out to them. What do you?
Yeah.
Because I think that and I'm just gonna speak from my own experience with this. It seems like we jumped on the bandwagon with different things because we had a grant.
Right.
I'm
Yep.
thinking back when my kids were in elementary school,
Mm,
the Bailey School got
Yeah.
this grant, so we did Linda Mood Bell.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
why
All
not?
day,
You know,
every day,
yeah,
yeah.
right? And then it's a lot of
Yeah.
effort for our teachers and then to try to fill in gaps. So now we're making this investment, we're gonna pick
Yeah.
the curriculum. K to 8, it's gonna be, you
Yeah.
know,
Serious
are
commitment
to look at
Absolutely.
reviews.
We are
from other
absolutely
districts.
looking at research. We're looking at reviews. We're also really doing a lot of, the literacy team here, the coordinator as well as the student support staff at the Central are talking to all colleagues from across Massachusetts that are in similar positions who are either using or have planned to use.
Right,
We are we're gonna do our due diligence. We're
Okay.
going to be really thoughtful to make sure that we're not only looking at research, but we're also talking to people who are currently implementing.
right, who have the real life
Yeah.
experience. And then it seems like you might get into a program and then say, oh, they do this, this, and this really well, but they don't
They
have
have
this. So where are the gaps?
Yeah.
Are there gaps? And to be
Yeah.
able to, when you're making the decision of which ones of these three,
Yeah.
have a sense, so this one's really strong in this,
Yeah.
and that's something that we really value or whatever.
I mean, we're absolutely gonna be looking at that, and that's gonna be part of the rationale we give to the superintendent. So under what conditions will this one work versus this one, and to what extent? And what are the gaps?
Right. And then sorry, I just have one more question. With the virtual experience that our teachers are now, and it closes tomorrow, you said that's our
Thursday.
last. So they can go in and look at actual lessons, like a third
Yeah.
grade lesson of what,
I mean, they can come here as well, but it seemed a lot more efficient to have the virtual access for them so that they could really play in with the lessons and see the alignment. So they are going in and actually looking at lessons and looking at teacher guides and making decisions based on that. We have them across strategic grades so that an elementary can look at first grade and second grade. Somebody in middle can look at 5 and 6. And so we're being really, and we can map who from middle school versus who from elementary is looking at what and giving us feedback on.
and
what they're seeing.
how long has that been up? Like how much
That
time?
has been happening since March. So we went, March 11th was the audit, was the curriculum
Curriculum
fair.
fair,
The following week, we began, we met initially, the team here for ELA and literacy met with the coaches. And that's where the following week after the fair. and
that
it
would
was
be
in-
March 18th.
Yeah, so
That was last week.
last week open and it will close at the end of this week.
So they had like 1 week,
And
To go
a
in.
little bit, yeah.
yeah.
But so far, 120 have responded, and some of the principals have been really responsive. They've got given CBT time during the school to ensure that teams of teachers are also getting a chance to look at it while they're at school.
Oh, I love that
Yeah,
idea.
so it's been, I mean, I don't know, we haven't closed yet, and 120 or 130 or so of them responding is pretty. That's a-
And they're providing you with specific comments like you gave in their
Yeah,
report.
and
just
we
to-
can absolutely share those comments. Yeah, they are providing with specific comments as well as ratings. So as they look, they will say, oh, this one
My
aligns
first
with-
choice.
My
and this is
first choice
why.
because it aligns with foundational skills, or this is my first choice because it's building knowledge, and so those are the pieces that we're getting. In more detail than we did after the fair, because we got that feedback from the fair as well, because
Right.
that was the publishers themselves presenting. But now it's our actual teachers taking a look at the curriculum and going through it.
Are the teachers getting like emails regularly that are saying, hey, that curriculum is up and the deadline ends Thursday at 5 p.m.?
Yes.
They are, so,
Yes.
you know, we're hoping to get more on board, needless to
yeah.
say, because the
Yeah.
more people that participate, the better off, the district will have
absolutely.
for making a choice.
And also, the more information they have, the more helpful it is when we make the decision, because we will have had people who have looked into and have some investment in one of the three.
Sure. And the CKLA has the amplified portion too.
That's the
Now,
one.
that seems like it's a little bit more digitally focused.
So the one half of the curriculum is more digitally focused. Yes, it is probably, well, American Reading Company also has an online platform as well, but yes, CKLA is the one with the amplifier.
And is that something that's the direction school districts are going in with, you know, with digital learning? Because that can sometimes remove a student really from,
I don't know if it's a direction school districts are going in. I know that, it's something we need to weigh, the balance of whether we want our students after COVID. There's a little hesitation about digital platforms versus actual, text. But
Actual books.
yeah, actual trade books and books. And so they have both. So this would, if we went with CKLA, they would have both options available. But it's something for us to be thinking about.
and all of these curricula have been around Massachusetts for the long term, if you,
Yes.
several years.
Mhm. Oh,
Because this is a, you know, this is a very big choice, you
It
know,
is.
and then the implementation is.
Yeah.
You know, next level.
and that would be our next step, like planning out what professional development would look like. I mean, we want absolutely to provide as much professional development as possible. We want to be able to do train the trainer, but we also want our teachers to have access directly as well as train the trainer models. We also want to ensure that with implementation, we need our principals to know what actually is being implemented. So we need PD for principals as well, so that the implementation is a little more seamless. So the next phase of this, after we make the recommendation of this top two, is to start planning what professional development needs to look like for the teachers and for our administrators.
So when we have top two chosen, are we actually gonna open up that portal one more time for the teachers to get involved again, or so, you know, how does it sort of come to the final
So the
choice?
final choice goes to the superintendent to make the recommendation. So after top two, with the rationale, and the rationale will include all of the teacher voice and all of the
Feedback, yeah.
feedback that we have received. Then he would make a decision.
Yeah, because we're also got a timeline
Yes.
issue. We want to make the decision in a way that we can start the
For next
professional
year,
development.
This
before they
summer.
leave, like June,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. At least one staff at professional development in June, then some in August, and then, of course, all the following year.
So everybody will be on board by the 1st of September, if you will.
Yes, that's the plan.
That's
That
the
it
hope.
would be in place by September 2025.
Well, it's an exciting
It
time,
is an exciting time. It really
Making-
is.
making decisions that are gonna have a big impact. What kind of investment are we talking about, dollars wise?
I was gonna say, which of the middle? A sizable investment, sizable.
Are they all about the same price?
Um, So interesting, Amplify is probably the more expensive, but they're within like 20 to 30% of each other, but
Okay.
the one with the digital platform. is a
Oh,
little bit
yeah.
more expensive.
Has that been proven to be successful, the Amplify?
They're all research based.
Yeah,
They're all green,
yeah,
so they
Yeah.
all meet the
Mhm.
criteria of being research based.
they all have.
So, okay,
So then we can look forward to a final decision.
We're hoping, early.
yeah, for our next meeting,
Yeah.
definitely. Well, I don't know, our
That's what I
next,
should have said.
not
For
our regular
right
meeting, but our
before
next subcommittee.
Subcommittee,
Yeah,
yes,
Okay,
yes.
and,
Fingers crossed, hoping that we will be able to have a decision.
well, I
so
really,
just understanding too, because we're gonna be seeing the budget stuff start to
Yes,
come together.
yes,
So it is gonna be for, this is obviously gonna have to be a priority in terms of investment, so. We can be as coy as we'd like about how much it is, but at some point we're gonna have to see the.
no, you'll
the
get
numbers and-
closer to
yeah.
an actual dollar amount.
Perfect. Just because there's gonna be a lot of things coming together all of this in the
Right.
same
Absolutely.
timeframe,
Yeah.
so.
They are actually providing us their preliminary,
Bid
estimate.
document, yeah.
Yeah, bid
Yeah.
documents. That's the reason, not so much COI, just
I-
I don't have an accurate number yet. And we'll negotiate because we want to be fiscally responsible as well.
Excellent. Are there any other questions from the committee members? No?
no, I think this is great. I feel assured that we really did reach out to our staff and, because I do value that frontline
Yeah.
user.
Absolutely.
And, it's important to make the right decision,
Yeah.
and it's also important for their buy-in,
Oh, no, absolutely.
so.
And some of the feedback I selected had them saying, teachers actually saying, the best part of this whole process was the fact that you asked us to weigh in. And I even had some principals talk about just how transparent this whole,
Yep,
that they're not used to that, but that they really appreciate that.
yep,
And we value that. Central office, that they are frontline, their voices matter. So we should be listening to how they're weighing it.
Well, thank you very much for that. I think that's great. All right, if there are no other questions, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn by Ms. Doherty, seconded by Mr. Bahu. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.